Welcome to the Thrive Forever Fit Show. I'm your host, Jay Nixon, and this show is all about disruption, inspiration, and transformation. My purpose and passion behind doing this show is to give you information, resources, and knowledge to help you move to the next level of life, to help you live that life of abundance and awesomeness that I know that you desire and I know you deserve. And so what we're going to do with each and every episode is bring you an action-packed, detailed oriented, systematic approach to living your best life. Now, today's episode is sponsored by Thrive Elite Greens. Thrive Elite Greens is the best tasting, most electrifying, immune boosting supplement on the market today. I use it every single day to break my fast. One serving provides you with 12 to 15 servings of fruits and vegetables. And if you're anything like me, you don't even get close to the amount of fruits and veggies that you need on a daily basis. All you have to do is go to thriveforeverfit.com, click the shop button, scroll down. You'll see the Elite Greens along with all the other supplements that I offer. I promise you it is delicious, nutritious, and amazing for your body and your immune system as a whole. We're coming into that time of year, that season where people start to get a little down in the dumps with their immune systems, sicknesses and illnesses and all of those things. So do everything you can to fortify that with the nutrients you need to make yourself as healthy as you can possibly be. All right, guys, let's get to the show. All right, Amanda, welcome to the update show. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. I'm proud of you. 20 pounds down as of today. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
A lot of hard work, a lot of things you've had to put together to get to this place. So let's just talk about that. Let's talk about the keys to, the last, few months of getting dialed in and having this success.
I had to cut my portions in half. I was eating way too much. Like I eat like a champ, but I was eating too much food.
Yeah, you were, that was one of the things that I always noticed about, like when, would see your pictures on the page would be just the volume. It was always good food, but it's a perfect example of, you can, calories, even if they're, great calories can be, too much for us to lose weight or to have that kind of success. How has that process been? Because the thought of somebody cutting calories in their own mind, like initially they're like, well, I'm going to be starving. I'm not going to make it. How will I have any energy? Blah, blah, blah. So how's that been?
Fine. Like at lunchtime at work, I literally maybe get 20 minutes to eat food. So whether I have a huge plate of food in 20 minutes or half the amount in 20 minutes, I'm still hungry an hour later.
Okay.
So it's, because I have to inhale my food. But even at supper time, I've been just taking smaller bowls, smaller forks, everything. And it's just a mind thing. Like you think that you actually need it, but you don't. You just take your time eating and it hasn't bothered me at all. Yeah, I'm drinking a ton more water too.
Oh, good. And that's one of the keys to just feeling full too, is just making sure you're properly hydrated. I noticed like when you go out to a restaurant, especially here in the United States, and Canada's probably a lot of the same way, it's like our portion sizes are just so enormous that we kind of get programmed and used to having this like mass volume of food. But then if like you said, if you just take a smaller plate and, fill that small plate up, it's still enough food and it's still plenty of food, to make yourself, get all the nutrients you need, all the protein, all the carbs, all the fats, and all of those things. So you're right. It is just kind of like a psychological thing. How long did it take you to kind of adapt to that smaller portion? Because what I'll tell people is this, like, hey, don't start by don't go cold turkey, right? And go from eating like this giant portion to having a hard boiled egg. Just cut it by like a fourth and just don't put that fourth of the portion on your plate. How's that been for you?
About a month into it, it took me probably 4 weeks. Cause then for lunchtime, I literally just took half the size of the containers and I filled it up. So it's in my head. I'm like, hey, it's a full container. So I think I'm getting lots, but it's totally a mind thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're still, you're still crushing your workouts. You're still having plenty of energy to get all the things done. Yeah. So I think that's the common misconception is people start to think, well, oh my gosh, like how will I have the energy to work out or to go to work or to go play with the kids or whatever?
Yeah.
And like you said, it's a psychological thing. How has, good.
Sorry. I was going to even say, like, I've even started getting up at 4:30 in the morning. I used to be a 5 a.m.er.
Mhm.
And by 6, 7 o'clock, I was done.
Yeah.
But I got up half an hour earlier, and I've been going till 8:30, 9 o'clock until it's bedtime.
Yeah.
So
I
I've had
think we,
tons of energy.
and we kind of get programmed to that too. Like we kind of, you'll hear people say all the time, well, I'm not a morning person, or, oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted if I get up at this time. We kind of program ourselves mentally to have the energy that we need to have to get to those times. It's like, you guys know I get up around 3 o'clock every morning. And, whether it's 3 the other morning, I woke up at 2:30 and I'm like, well, I guess we're getting up at 2:30. And it's like, it's not a big deal. You just have to, know that you're going to have enough energy to do the things that you need to do. How has the accountability portion of the last few months been in respects to like you staying on track and having success and all those things?
It's been good. Actually, the last month has been brutal, to be honest. It's
Good.
been hard. And I'm like, oh shit, now we're done.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Right. Because I'm like, this is when the shit gets real. Like, it's getting really hard right now.
Yeah.
Where the honeymoon stage of it is over. Like, the excitement's over. And it's like, I was journaling about it today, actually. Like, the consistency is what's going to have to keep me going.
It's that thing.
It's like hard right now.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because I think for a lot of people, it's like the initial phases and stages of everything are always really exciting, right? It's always like, oh my gosh, it's like the lights are on. It's like everybody's watching. It's really exciting. And then all of a sudden it's like, I've had the same experience with clients who've lost like 100 pounds. It's like, but as soon as they lost 100 pounds, then it's almost sudden like the lights just went off and they still had more weight to lose, but it wasn't as exciting because it was like that pinnacle had been reached. So for you, I mean, if we look at the goals, I mean, the goal is 155. Today we're 173. So we've got, I mean, I'm horrible. Is that like 17 pounds, 18 pounds, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to lose, and there's no reason why we can't. You've already lost 20, right? If we just keep the same system, the same consistency, the same commitment, the same everything, like that 17, 18 pounds is going to be, I mean, I'm going to use the word easy. I know it's not going to be easy, but it's not going to be this like complex algorithm that you need to try to figure out. You already know how to do it. So what are your strategies? What are you going to utilize in order to keep that consistency and the accountability and the support and all that jazz?
My group.
Yeah.
The Thrive group. And I've got a lot of really cool, a bunch of awesome people in my group here.
Good.
And online too. Like, I've got Al and Joanne and Tiffany. They're my pod. So we reach out once a week. So I have to really hammer down on that.
Yeah. And you got to make sure that you don't get complacent on that, because I think a lot of times, like when things do get challenging, we tend to get complacency around, checking in and asking for that extra support and asking for that extra. So I like the vulnerability of your post today, because it showed that you're not willing to just say, oh, screw it. Like, I'll kind of figure this out on my own. And so I think it's important that you continue to keep being vulnerable and keep posting those things when you're struggling. It's okay to struggle. Like, struggle doesn't mean failure. And I think a lot of times we attach those two things together. All struggle means is you need a little bit of extra support that day, or that in that moment, or in that activity. And I think I know it's totally necessary to ask for it. And so keep doing that. Keep relying on the support system of the group.
That was what I was journaling today, actually. I was posting it and I thought, this is something I need to be talking to Jay about.
Yeah, totally.
Like, how do I, overcome this body image thing? Anyways, that's for another time. But
well, I think it's one of those things where, we'll touch on a little bit here. It's like, that's part of like the limiting belief system that you have, right? It's like, you're still visual, even though you've lost 20 pounds just in this small stint, not to count what you've lost before. You're feeling good. Your workouts are great. Like, physically, when you look in the mirror, like you can identify a new version of you, because it's a 20-pound difference in what you used to look like. But that subconscious brain still keeps kicking back those reflectionary pictures of you're not this new version. You're the same old version, the 193-pound version that you were when you started. And that's challenging to overcome. And so it's really just a limiting belief of, is this real? Am I going to stay here? Can I consistently do this? And what's the next step for me? Like, how does it look? And so it's one of those things where there's a lot of work that we're going to need to do to continue to move toward that new version of you actually believing it. But the key things are limiting the self-sabotage, right? Because that's what we usually do. And when we start to have that limiting belief, we're like, well, if that's who I believe I am, if that's what my identity is, then I'll just act as if that person would act. And you know the results of that. Like that's when you start gaining weight and losing momentum. So what you've got to do is you've got to identify and continue to fortify that belief system that you are this new version and create that new identity of yourself so that you act like she would act instead of how the old version of you would act, right? And so it's those moments in those decisions. It's like, what decision would she make? And she's the version of you that you are today, not that old version that got you stuck and didn't have you thriving in those areas that you wanted to be thriving in. When we talk about that, what sounds like the most challenging piece of that puzzle?
Which one is the most challenging?
Of like, you know, the belief that you deserve to keep this going, that you don't deserve to fall back to that old, you know, version of yourself, which was the 193-pound version.
The 235, 40-pound person, realistically,
well, exactly.
Right? Like,
exactly.
That's where I was stuck at forever. I was stuck at like 230 pounds forever and ever and ever. So for me to get down to 180 was a miracle, I thought. So yeah. Anyways.
And now you're at 173. So the miracle has been completely blown out of the water. It's like, oh my gosh.
Do you know what's stupid?
What?
I was picturing 170. I wanted to see 172 on the scale today. And I saw what I was like, oh, I'll get to 192. And that's what I said in my head, 192. I'm like, Amanda, you're way past 192. What the hell is going on?
Well, it's because you're still identifying. You got that old belief system still like rattling around in that head.
I know.
And so that's the importance of all this. That's the importance of like doing this necessary work, having these conversations so that you can like drive out those old thought processes. It's like, you still think you weigh 100 and 200 pounds. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so the danger in that for you and for everybody listening is when you identify as that 200-pound person, that's where you make decisions from, right? So a 200-pound person makes different decisions than a 150-pound person, right? When it comes to food, when it comes to just nutrition as a whole, when it comes to workouts, when it comes to how they treat themselves. And so you've got to stay uber focused, and that's going to be through all the processes, right? Your journaling, your support group, asking for extreme radical honesty and accountability, all of those things so that you don't fall back into that old behavioral system. Because a lot of times what will happen is like when the extreme accountability goes away, then it's easy to kind of manipulate the system with your smaller accountability group, right? Because it's like they've got their own stuff going on. Oh yeah. So it's like you can focus on their stuff and then defer away from your own stuff, right? And that's usually what we do. Like, hey, let's talk about you today, man. Instead of talking about what I really need to work on. Yeah. So make sure you're not doing that. Don't allow your group to do that, right? Like, don't allow your accountability group to do that, and don't allow yourself to do that. And that'll be the key to your success. So we've got 18 pounds. This is going to air November 1st, basically. So we're going to have 2 months left until the clock strikes 2022. What can we get accomplished between now and that last strike of the clock in 2021.
Okay, the number thing isn't really I don't know about the number thing. 125 would be fantastic, but I have no idea what I'm going to be at. Anyways, yeah. So I just want to wear a freaking bikini in Watuco in January when I go. And I want to crush it, and I want to love what I look like in it. That's my goal.
I agree. I think the numbers are irrelevant. I think the numbers don't matter, right? And so I think the strategy is you start making decisions from the place of that person who is wearing that bikini, who does feel confident, who is comfortable in her own body, when you're on the beach and you're doing all those things. You got to be able to visualize that in order to achieve it, in order to get that, level of confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
And that's how you make decisions.
I'll be working out and I see in the mirror, I'm like, because I've been visualizing what I want to look like in my head for a long time. And I'm like, I can actually start to see it. Like my muscle definition is there, and good. I look good. And then I see my stomach area and then I'm like,
Yeah, but you know what? We're always really extreme. We're always harder on ourselves than anybody else ever would be. Right. Yeah. And so I think you've got to give yourself the high fives that you deserve whenever, because you are working hard, you are really committed, you are staying uber consistent, right? And so I think it's imperative that you acknowledge that and don't fall into those traps of beating yourself up, because what'll happen is when you start that negative self-talk, that's how your old self used to speak to you, right? And that's how you used to speak about yourself. So you've got to make sure you're speaking about yourself in the greatest version of who you are and who you deserve to be, right? And so keep visualizing yourself in that place and space, and keep visualizing yourself in that body, and use all those tactics and strategies so that you can continue to evolve into that place. I mean, because listen, the beach is coming, right? The vacation's coming.
I know.
You might as well show up to that as the best version of you. And there's the only thing between you and that are the decisions you're going to make between now and then. All right.
Yeah.
It's just the next best decision. It's nothing monumental. And the beautiful thing is, you know what's working. You know, all you have to do is stay consistent and committed to this process, and you're going to get the results that you deserve to get based on the decisions that you're willing to make. Pretty simple. I mean,
it is very simple.
Yeah,
We've had
simple.
this discussion before.
Yeah,
I'm like, it's not rocket science.
No, I mean, and the only person that's going to get in your way is you.
Is me, for sure.
So just don't let that happen, right? Use your accountability team and all the accountability resources and tools, me, the group, your pod, everything, to make sure that whenever those challenging moments come, that you don't try to white knuckle it and do it on your own, right? That would be a waste of time, and it'd be a waste of your resources. So make sure you're diving in and utilizing your resources to get to the results that you need to get to. Deal?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I believe in you. I know it's going to happen. So let's do this. Let's go ahead. I know that this is supposed to be the final follow-up and update. Let's go ahead and think about having another one of these at the end of November so that we can stay on course and on track. And
okay,
that way,
I love that.
You're definitely not going to want to show up to that podcast and say, well, it's been lasagna season here at the house, right? So let's go ahead and do that, because I'm invested and I want you to hit your goals and I want you to achieve this version. And then what I want you to promise me is that when you get to her, that you stay her, right? Like you don't, you know what I mean? Like you don't do the destructive stuff again, because it's unnecessary, right? You know how to do it. You know how to do what you need to do. So let's do that. We will commit to doing another one of these end of November. We'll have a check-in. Today we're at 173. We're going to be at 1 something amazing. Then you're going to be feeling good, looking good, happy, healthy, and doing all the things you need to do.
You know how I got that Lululemon jacket in size 8?
Yeah. Let's tell that story really quick. Go ahead and tell the whole story, because some people don't know about it.
Right. So our office got new jackets made with logos, and we were getting sizes, and I tried on a size 10, it fit perfect. And then Jill told me, pull the trigger and get an 8 because it's going to fit you. I'm like, okay. I tried it on. It was tight. Anyways, now it fits. It's a little snug around my hips. I should have got the 6 that you and Jill told me that I should have got.
Well, I mean, whenever you posted you told the story, and then we were all like, hey, get the 8 at least, right? Whenever you posted the picture of the 8, I couldn't imagine if you would have got the 10. It would have been like, she's wearing her big sister's, jacket.
Yes.
You'd have been swimming in it. I mean, in looking at the 8, I didn't think it was tight at all. I thought it fit perfectly. And then you can already see that like the 6th is like right there. And so
I know. And it just seems crazy to me, like, what? A size 6?
It's because you're right. You're still identifying as a size 10, right? Like you tried to buy a 10. And I think a lot of women do that. Like they're like, well, I've always been a 10. And like, those don't fit you. Like you should actually never buy that size again, right? Like don't even go to that size, right? And so now the next time you go in to buy something, like, you're going to start at the 6, right? Instead of going to the 10. Or at least start at the 8.
A girl at work, she's pregnant, so I gave her some of my bigger pants because she's super uncomfortable right now.
Yeah.
And then she gave me some of her pants. She's like, they're small. And I'm like, they're not going to fit. She's like, yes, they will. I tried them on and sure shit, they did. I was so surprised.
Well, it's because the brain, right? Like you're still not thinking of yourself as this smaller version. And this is the most crucial piece of the whole puzzle. Like, because you know what to eat, you know how to work out, you know how to do all the mechanical things. But the struggle is between the ears, right? The struggle is the brain telling you, or you telling yourself, that you're not something that you actually are.
Yeah.
That's confusing, right? It's like
For sure.
your immediate reaction to say, oh, I couldn't fit in those, or oh, I'm not that thin, or oh, I'm not that fit, or oh, that size would never fit me, I'm too big for that. Like, I hear women talk about themselves, and I just want to like grab them and say, listen, stop talking negatively about yourself. Like, let's put them on, let's see if they fit, and then let's work a program and a plan around like how we can make them fit if that's important to you. So that's a lesson for you. And this whole thing is like, stop using that language with yourself, right? Like, stop saying that won't fit, or I'm too big, or that's too small, or all that stuff. Just like, try it on. Like, it doesn't require any conversation beforehand. If they're smalls, put them on. If they fit, great. If they don't, who cares?
Right.
Right. There's the beauty.
And even at work, I noticed my confidence has been up a little bit. Like I'm starting to take on my role a little bit more appropriately than what I was. I was kind of just stepping back and not being more forward like I should be. So I've been taking on more.
I think there's two reasons for that, right? It's like, most people would look at that and say, oh, it's because you have more confidence because you lost weight. And I would say maybe, but the real reason is it's how you're treating yourself. You're treating yourself with the level of respect that you deserve. And therefore you're able to treat your job and the people you work with the level of respect that it deserves. It's all energetically flowing in the right direction. The weight loss just happens to be a side effect of it. But I know
my stuff at work too. And it's just like, oh, guess what? I believe in myself.
Yeah. Well, it's because you're keeping promises to yourself. I mean, you're saying, hey, I'm going to do this, and you're really doing it. And that transcends into every area of your life, like into your friendships, into your work, into your everything, because you have more self-confidence. And when you have more self-confidence, you show up differently in the world. And the weight loss is just a side effect of it. You're just wearing a smaller jacket, you know what I mean? But the self-confidence is what's coming through you through the decisions that you're making on this journey. And that's got to feel amazing. Like, that's got to feel probably just as good as the weight loss.
For sure it does.
Yeah, because that proves you can do anything. Like with good self-confidence, good self-awareness, motivation, and the way you're feeling right now, like, there's nothing you can't accomplish, right? Whether it's a weight loss number or a size or a certain dress or a bikini or whatever it is, but it's all the other amazing things you're going to be able to accomplish because of this new level of confidence that you're bringing into the world. And that's the most important thing. Right?
Yeah.
All right, keep crushing the game, man. So we'll make a plan. You and I'll jump back on here at the end of the month, and we will get an update. And I think the best thing we can do from now is just keep doing exactly what you're doing. Don't change a thing.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, bud. Proud of you.
Thank you.
See you in a bit.